I'm waiting.
Did you start? Start it.
Stop that.
Let me see again. Alright, I'm Ethan Davis, and if you did not know, I love baseball, so once again, I'm going to be doing my speech about baseball. Today, I'm going to be talking about the different types of pitches and how they're thrown and what they're supposed to do to be an effective pitcher at the college level. So to start out, I'm just going to talk to you about some of the pitches that I throw and why I throw these pitches. Starting off, I throw 3 different types of fastballs. The first fastball I throw is a 4-seam. A 4-seam is the main pitch that all baseball players throw. This is the grip. You start holding, you can see the horseshoe. You hold your middle and your index finger across both sets of seam on the horseshoe. Then the action when you throw this pitch is to flick your wrist straight down when you reach all the way out. This causes the ball to have backspin and stay on a flat plane the whole time. This pitch is probably one of the most important pitches in baseball because it's the most accurate. A lot of pitchers use this pitch to get ahead of batters or get up early in counts so that they can go to their off-speed pitches, which we'll talk about later. Another reason this pitch is very important is because it is the hardest velocity pitch thrown by pitchers. According to Brad McClintock at Bleacher Report, Nolan Ryan still holds the record today for the hardest thrown 4-seam fastball. He threw a fastball 108.1 miles per hour back in 1947. The only pitcher in today's game that can get even close to that amount, or that speed velocity-wise, is Aroldis Chapman. The next pitch I want to talk to you about is a 2-seam fastball. A 2-seam fastball is still fairly hard, but not as hard as a 4-seam. A 2-seam fastball is held like this. You can see the horseshoe where we held the 4-seam. You tilt the ball up and you hold it on the seam towards your glove hand side, or the opposite of which hand you throw it. This, when you throw it, will spin like this with the horseshoe. The movement of this pitch is to actually run back or cut back to your arm side when throwing. I throw this pitch as more of a ground out pitch, or a pitch to try to get somebody to not hit a ball very hard. A lot of pitchers use this one for movement or to try to avoid barrel also. That way the ball doesn't get hit as hard or as far. The third pitch fastball that I want to show you is called a cutter. A cutter is held on the edge of the horseshoe like this. It's using the same fingers as the 4-seam and the 2-seam, but you can see the horseshoe there. You hold right here on that. The only difference between a cutter and a 4-seam is how you let it go with your wrist. A 4-seam, you'll be straight out in front. Cutter, you want to twist your wrist just a little bit. This causes the ball to have 4-seam spin, but it'll be off center and tilted a little bit. So a 4-seam will be this way, and the cutter will be this way. The cutter is meant to go with your arm side. So as you follow through, it'll keep going this way. This is a very popular pitch for closers or relievers. Some starting pitchers use it, but it's not as common just because it's one of the harder fastballs to control and get to move. Now we're going to go to off-speed pitches. The first off-speed pitch I want to talk to you about is the curveball. This is my favorite pitch by far, just because it's one of the pitches I learned at a young age. Curveball is held, if you see the horseshoe here, I hold my curveball right here on this seam. and you want to make sure it's out on the fingertips a little bit too, so you have this gap here. The curveball has the opposite spin of a four seam if you throw it right. So a four seam will spin back like this, and a curveball will spin forward. The main point of a curveball is to give it a huge looping arc, or a sharp arc that breaks straight and then down at the very end. This is one of the hardest pitches to hit from a batter's point, just because of how much slower and how much movement it has. According to Ted Berg, author at USA Today, Clayton Kershaw, he believes, has one of the nastiest curveballs in Major League Baseball. Personally, I agree with him, but you guys can look up videos if you want and figure that out. The next pitch that I want to show you is a slider, and it is held on the opposite side of a curveball. So if a curveball is held here, slider is held here. A slider does the same movement as a curveball except for on a different plane. So instead of breaking straight up and down like this, it cuts or slides this way, giving it the name of slider. Anthony Castrovidis, he's an MLB columnist, wrote an article about Chris Sale's slider. Chris Sale has the dirtiest slider in the game. He gets over half of his swings and misses every year by batters by throwing his slider. A slider and curveball are going to be fairly close in speed, velocity-wise, but a slider will be a little bit harder and won't move as much as a curveball. The last pitch I want to show you is called a changeup. And a changeup is held completely different because it uses your whole hand. You want to get the ball deep in your hand, if you guys can see that. You can get deep in the hand. You want to make a circle with these fingers here and get all other three of your fingers around the ball. The point of a changeup is to look exactly like a four-seam fastball, so your movement and wrist and everything will go straight down. The only difference between a changeup and a fastball is the speed. Holding with your whole hand, the speed will change drastically and slow down and drop down and left. So I've just talked to you about all the pitches that I throw and what they do and why they're effective. Now that you know how to throw them, let's see if you guys can beat my strikeout record.
Yeah.